everyone, thank you so much for tuning into my tarot channel today. My name is Paulina and I have a message for you. And this comes off the heels of some really intense energy that I was going through yesterday. I'm glad we worked through it if you're one of the 3 people that watches my channel. Or person in the future if you're watching. There was some really dark stuff from your past and I think we worked through a lot of that. And I want to see what comes up today because I feel like there's been some clearing that's maybe happened. Not only if you watch that, but I think it also has maybe brought up some other issues. So I have 2 decks here. I'm going to interchange between the 2 of them, and some of the cards are the same, so if we get double confirmation, that's really cool and exciting. And this is not a complete deck because I don't have my shit together. Okay, so I'm just gonna tune in for a second. The energy. Thank you, Spirit, for guiding this session. I don't always do a blessing, but I'm feeling a little bit of a need for grounding. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, Mother Mary. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Krishna. Thank you, Buddha. Thank you, Hanuman. Thank you, Shiva. Thank you, God. Thank you, Saint Jude, patron saint of lost causes, specifically. That's who I want to thank today. Okay. Yep. Oh, yeah. That last thing there, the need for calling on Saint Jude. I think you're in a situation where I'm just picking up on this energy of you feel very let down by someone or something. And it's, it also feels like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way because, or maybe not self-fulfilling, but it feels like a pattern that you know very well. And it feels also like it may be a common pattern in social dynamics. I'm actually, the universe won't let me stop thinking of this dynamic. I watched this stupid show. I mean, it's not stupid, but I think all TV is stupid to an extent. It's I'd rather read a book, but sometimes I just watch TV. But it's really, I've actually also gone long periods of not being able to watch TV because I was so anxious or had ADHD problems. But I'm not gonna really get into that. Maybe later in the reading I'll talk about some of those brain things and how that might be affecting your situation. But generally I do love to do crafting if I'm in a more relaxed place in my life and watch some obscure stuff and just stuff that everyone watches. I need to know what's going on. And there's I do have limits. I won't watch trash unless it's trash that I need to know about, Love Island or something like that. I mean, I haven't actually watched Love Island, but shows like that are adjacent, really bad shows where it's you meet your you meet your fiance on the first date or something. I sometimes get sucked into that because I just have no life. But it's actually been a while since I got into that train. I don't know why I'm talking about this. Okay, but I was gonna say, but I was watching this show called what is it called? Shrinking with what's his face? Jason Segel. And it was, sorry, just turning my car off. It was, I'm very intuitive, so I can kind of call what dynamics are coming in, what's gonna happen. And I was Kobe Smulders' character, who I love, that actress from How I Met Your Mother, is this sort of needy but beautiful and fun and smart woman who comes into his life and is just trying to get in there. And my first red flag was when she showed up at his work and was just hi, and that's it felt like he felt invaded and it was too soon for that. And then he then becomes withdrawn because of personal issues about his father and realizes that he's not emotionally available enough to be in the relationship and just breaks up with her. But I saw that coming from a mile away because it's a common dynamic. She's just fresh out of a divorce. She's looking for, you can see in the dynamic, she says things she's looking for worship, which every woman should. She's looking for devotion. And she says things say my haircut looks good or else I'll break up with you, as a joke. But really in the beginning of dating it's sort of like that. It's make it clear that you care, make it clear that you approve, and people are insecure. And that can actually last throughout a relationship also. There could be poor communication skills. And I like how in that episode she goes like, is this what happened every time you were dysregulated, like with your wife? Like you just shut down and don't talk to people? And he was like, yeah, and my wife would become that way with me too. And I was like, what the hell? And also the character is like, what? And it's, what it is it's like, it's just like a common trope of like women, and this could be for men too, but in this case it's a woman. Someone who's really looking for that commitment and someone who is like maybe damaged and has like idiosyncrasies or intricacies to their, you know, to their personality, and also maybe has a timeline in the back of their head because, you know, she's divorced, but she's also like, I don't want to be single forever. There's like a push to her finding a boyfriend. She's like, I'm sick of being single, blah, 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 which is good for her. But like, she goes for someone who is like, he's grieving his wife. He is a former drug addict, which I don't know if she even knows. And prostitute user, which I don't know if she knows that either. But also like you know, we're just learning that the character gets like super dysregulated and like shuts down. And like, here's this clincher, is like, it's not personal. Like she's crushed and she's hurt, but in a way she's setting herself up to be crushed and hurt. Why is he not coming to see her at her work? You know, that's how it should be. At least I think with men and women, I think that the man should be the worshiper in most cases. And why, and if this were a situation that you're going through with, and you're the man, you know, in that kind of situation, that's called like a woman leading you on, which I mean can happen with a man leading a woman on too. But like in that situation, it's like you're gonna end up getting angry at a certain point. So maybe so do you see? So Adler's a theorist. He says the underlying issue is really why we're having this response. There's the impetus of the stimuli. The situation, Jimmy's father comes and is a jerk and gets him all dysregulated and reminds him of his grief for his wife. But actually Jimmy's already kind of like has a lot of issues already, and that was just the stimulus, okay? And then with this woman who's there, she is so upset about his rejection of her, and she's like, okay, fine, and like leaves and is all emotional, and it's like, really? Like, look at yourself. You're like this beautiful woman, and you're gonna like lower yourself to like this? I mean, not just that she's beautiful, like she's an interesting character. Like she's funny and she's smart and she's like intuitive and she's like got a career. You know, she has a kid. She's an interesting person. And it's like, it's almost like she's like asking him to just like jump right in, and he's like, no, I can't really do that with you. Anyway, and so, sorry, this is really TV heavy, but like, it's a dynamic that really exists a lot, where someone tries and tries and tries, and the other person withholds and withholds, or is grumpy and mean. And I'm saying Cobie Smulders' character already had those feelings of rejection and hurt going on, and she was just looking for another place to exercise it. You don't have to agree with me, but she was already reeling from a divorce where those feelings were really active. So she's just looking for a place to have those feelings come out, and he's the perfect stimulus because he's like a jerk. Ooh, that was heavy. So I think that is a situation that you're going through where like you've been like wounded, but it's actually it allowed you to express an old wound. I don't know if you're following me. And like you already were hurt and wounded before this wound. So yeah, I'm gonna get a couple cards just based off that energy. Ace of Cups. I feel like you are someone who's very empathic. you may have been alone in this empathy. I'm sensing, I'm just gonna be really intuitive with the cards and extrapolate. You may have been alone in this empathy in situations in your life where you were like the giver. And I feel like you rushed into a lot of situations romantically. So I'm feeling like this is actually a dynamic about how this reading is about how you show up in relational dynamics, specifically romantically, whether you're a man or a woman. So you rush in, which is what Cobie Smulders' character does. She's like, hey, cute guy. He's got this great career as a therapist. He's got a daughter. He's got a house. He's got it all together. He's funny. He's smart. He's caring. She's not seeing he's got major issues. Like, that's all just outside stuff. That's all just external, you know? And I'm not saying sometimes rushing in, you know, sometimes there are situations where we like just feel it right away and it's okay and it works, and that happens too. But sometimes the statistical majority of that time and of those kinds of situations, it doesn't work out because of that dynamic. Because both people are still dealing with, this also happens with one night stands. Okay, so often a woman will find a guy attractive because he's like, you know, he's witty or he's like charming or he's flirtatious, but there's also something about him that's like, he gives off an impression of being like, what is it? Naive, like that he's been rejected before. So she feels like, sure, let's like try this. And then he just like ghosts her or like whatever, cuts her off or just they never, you know, whatever. Men act very immature sometimes after intercourse. That's a very common dynamic. And look, it's the same thing. It's like the girl, whoever she is, she's already dealing with some issues that the fact that she would just jump in with somebody without really knowing them enough to know that they would act like that, which is one night stand, you don't really know them that well. That means she's got some issues of like self-worth that she needs to look at. And actually being rejected by this person, the one night stand thing, it's gonna force her to look at those issues of self-worth. Why do I freaking hate myself? Why am I like having intercourse with people I've just met? No judgment. Just like I'm saying for the emotional cost that can be for women sometimes. And some women aren't like that. Some women move freely from partner to partner and don't take personally when, you know, things go south very quickly or when people get cut off. Some people are just different, but Cobie Smulders' character is not like that. I also just love her name, so I keep saying it. Okay, Page of Pentacles. I feel like you need to focus on I think actually maybe you're starting a business and you I don't know why that came into my head. It must be straight from spirit. Or you need to think of starting your own business, because I think that it's almost like the relationships that you've been in have caused so much individuation that I feel like it will be hard for you to adhere to some regime. So I feel like self-employment could be amazing. And this is a page, so it's really the beginning. So, you know, there's no pressure to like have it figured out, but there is some inkling here of entrepreneurship, because, well, I don't know why that's related to this dynamic. I think because you've been like maybe rejected in some situation relationally with boyfriend or girlfriend, that you're like thinking, you know, it's made you rethink your whole life actually and what you can tolerate relationally. And a lot of businesses are, you know, they're not run very well. And I think you're thinking of starting your own business. I don't know who I'm talking to, but right now you don't have the sort of skills lined up or maybe the capital lined up. You feel like you don't know what you're doing, like, and that's why you're being pushed to some sort of self-business model. I'm also hearing like public speaking. It keeps coming up in my readings. Like, maybe if you have been in this situation where you've like been rejected and it really hurt, and and you dealt with a lot of feelings of rejection, and maybe someone who was gruff or like rude or cruel at the end, you know, speaking about women's feelings and emotions in relationships, it could help somebody. I don't know what the forum would be. We got the Fool. You are ready for a fresh start. So instead of like investing fully right away, which some people might attribute the Fool to like, yeah, just jumping right in without knowing what's going on, impulsivity. But it's a lot more than that. That's just like one interpretation depending on how it sits in the reading. It's also about like rebirth, I want to say, just like a new life, new energy, to jump off the cliff of what we know, which sounds scary, but trusting that there's like a safety net, that there's something, and then there's a guide here. See the little white dog? I have a little white dog. I always see myself as the Fool. Okay, I'm going to switch to this other deck here, Dia de los Muertos, which has a very different energy. Because I feel like these issues about like seeking approval, actually, from people who are disrespectful or won't give it to you, it's definitely from like some childhood stuff, which usually it is. Three of Swords. Yeah, this is the card of heartbreak. I think you've let your own heart be broken a lot of times, and there's actually physical pain in your heart maybe right now, maybe even breathing problems. And I don't mean like you've let it happen, but you've been in situations like where you could have been more careful with your heart, which is not meant to be shaming. King of Cups. There is going to be like a resurgence of good feeling and just positivity, love, hope in your life, and creativity. And like, I want you to be the king of your feelings, you know, King of Cups. I don't want you to be like, you know, in chains with your feelings. Let them flow, let them come and go. And most importantly, like, don't take this rejection personally. You know, I'm zeroing in on this relationship, which sounds romantic, or like a romantic rejection, or relational, deeply relational rejection. It could also be like you've been rejected in a lot of other forums, like maybe family, friends, jobs, just greater society. That could be, and this is like a reflection of that. But yeah, I'm just gonna look at your energy for a second. Ooh, I'm sensing, I saw a porcupine. I really take those image things from spirit seriously, because it's always very, very like specific, and things that I wasn't thinking about porcupines today at all, so I can tell you that it's not from my head. So you're feeling armored, I would say, and like these spikes around you energetically, like, don't get close to me, which is okay, because I think you've been hurt. And I think that maybe even someone coming close to you, like in a public space, feels like a lot right now. And that's okay, and that will maybe get better with time. Porcupines are so fascinating because I think that the like spikes can be like lifted and then like put down, kind of, and like they're just like, if you've ever seen one in person, they're just like so weird. Like, it's like maybe like you are someone who's, I'm not saying you're weird, but like you're different, okay? Like, you're very different. You're very defensive, because you, in a defensive place, at least, not defensive overall maybe, but like you are protecting yourself for some reason because of what you've been through. And you know what? That's okay. More power to you. But at a certain point, it's kind of like when people lose a lot of weight, which I had some drastic weight loss this year from just stress and just, yeah, anxiety stuff I was going through. I needed to lose weight anyway, so it was fine. But I was a higher weight because of this medication I was on. In the beginning, people gain weight, but I wasn't used to being that weight, so it was weird. But why am I mentioning weight? I was gonna say that a lot of times, if people feel unsafe and if people have obesity, they may have like sometimes some bodily trauma where they like need to feel armored because there was abuse, and they feel like they need that padding because they feel like not safe. But so the message is like, you're safe, you know, emotionally, physically, mentally, from this person now. They're not here. Two of Cups. I'm actually seeing a new relationship coming in for you that is somebody who does value your way of life and who you are and your idiosyncrasies and your neuroses and your funniness and your, you know, I'm seeing the porcupine spike sort of being let down, maybe shaved off, because, which would actually hurt a real porcupine. Don't do that. But like, you know, I'm seeing the boundaries drop. I'm seeing the weight lifted. I'm seeing literal and physical, emotional weight lift, and maybe like weight loss, literally, because you are not energetically holding on to as much of this need to be armored, because it actually is exhausting. So this new person, this is about this card is about like a waiting game. It's like something that you're waiting for to come to you. Three of Wands. Like this new person, it's more gonna be like they're pursuing you, which was what I said about the shrinking episode. Like, why is he not showing up at her work? Like, it's not creepy that she's doing that, but it's like, it's a little bit masculine, and just the dynamics were like a little bit off in the beginning. I mean, it's totally fine to be an assertive woman. I'm incredibly assertive because I've had to be in my life. But with like relationships, and also men like to be pursued too. Like, you don't want to be on a one-sided thing where you're like talking to someone who like, maybe you go on dates and they just never really give you a chance, or like they're dating other people, or they keep you as a sideline. It's very common for men to like be friend zoned and like stay that friend and obviously be in love with a woman, and she'll like keep him on the sidelines for years. That's happened a lot to a lot of men. But I'm thinking for both sides, for both men and women who are in situations like this, it's like, you're gonna actually be in a situation where you're not trying so hard, and it's like a mutual, and you don't have to like, it's not like pulling teeth to like get cooperation or like to be heard, or like when the character Jimmy shuts down and won't like really talk to her. It's like someone who's not like that, someone who's like, let's talk this out, you know, let's work this out, let's become closer through this. And that may be that this person is more mature than the people you've dated, or you're in a different place. This card's broken, unfortunately, so I can't see what it says. I got Five of Wands. I feel like I don't want to show it because it's so negative. I just feel like that relationship was, it's not only that you were chasing and trying to make it work, showing up and being overly like forgiving, overly available, overly pick me girl. That's what it's called, a pick me girl in the new young people slang. You want to be the opposite of that. You want to realize your worth. And it's not like leading people on. It's like, who do I deem worthy of my time, my effort? Because we have a limited time on this earth. So how am I going to spend it? Am I going to spend it with someone who won't call me back, or shuts down when things get tough, or says mean things, or somebody who, I don't know what situation, and maybe you're with somebody who hits you, or somebody who throws things at you, or punches walls, whatever it is, or just doesn't get back to you, or ghosts you, or like, you know, breaks up with you a million times. Whatever this is, it's like, it's really a long time. I can see that you stayed in this situation because you cared, but it's actually a long-standing pattern of self-abuse at this point. I'm gonna get a closing card from Spirit. What do we need to know? I don't know what this card is because it's like broken, because I take terrible care of my decks. Oh wait, I keep getting it, so I'm gonna try to figure it out. Something of Swords. I think it's just 2 of Swords because it has 2. It's like a scissors. But either way, it's just like cut this person out. I'm sorry to be so blunt. Cut this out of your life. And I think maybe the fates, like the Greek fates, have already cut this person out of your life. Like they snipped them out. I believe in that. I do believe that these like fates are like somewhere in the ethers. Like these 3 like old women over like a bubbling cauldron just like deciding what the fuck's gonna happen to us with these like threads and like cutting and snipping and shaping them. I kind of believe in that, which is really crazy, but I mean, it's just mythology, but it's all in our mind anyway, so who cares? I guess I'm mentioning that because some things are pre-decided in life. You'll find that really early if you grow up with illness. I have alopecia, so that's a lesson that takes other people longer to learn. Like that there's just like there's a set, you know, other people who understand that as people who are like underprivileged or like specifically people who have like racial like they're underprivileged because of like their race, which is totally unfair and ridiculous and wild, but it really happens in our society, and it's awful. And you know, I'm actually multiracial because I'm part indigenous South American, but I'm also whatever, I'm not gonna get into it. But that wouldn't be apparent in my appearance, obviously. I think like you've been seeing that this is like, this was not destined to continue. This was a learning situation. I mean, all situations are, but like if I'm talking about the fates here, like it was sort of decided or preordained that it's time to move on. It's time to go onward. And I feel like it's really hard for you, even though you know it's the right thing. Because I feel like at one point this person was sweet and caring, and you're holding on to that memory. Let's get a final card here, Spirit, for some healing. What's the healing message we can learn about? 7 of Cups. Choices. It can also be about fantasy and illusion. Can also be about, you know, sort of projection, like seeing what we want in people. And, you know, I think that's what you did here. Like, because you do see the good in people. But it can also be a card of like secrets with the 7. So I think maybe this person had secrets, and maybe you learned about some of them, and that was like a deal breaker for you. Maybe you tried to make it work for a while and then it just petered out, but really learning that secret that was kept from you was like a clincher. You were just like, I value truth. And I'm sorry, that's not our final card. Our final card is the Tower and the 10 of Swords. Yeah, so the Tower, it was just sort of like a building that was falling apart with the dynamic, and you couldn't stay in that role anymore of chasing, trying to make it work, being like a martyr. And also 10 of Swords, you were like really being damaged here, like, and there was just finality. There was an ending, like a very final ending. And I think you're someone who likes to think of, well, with this, I think of the reincarnation. I think you're someone who likes to think of, it's okay, we can always work it out. But like, sometimes just like moving on is the rebirth. It's not the rebirth in the relationship. I'm sorry, I am gonna get one last card. 4 of Pentacles. This can be about holding on to things, holding on to what is like essential for our survival, like materially. And I'm not reading it in a negative way here. I'm reading it that like most people would say this is a negative card because it means like, oh, you're like obsessed with holding on to what you have, but that's really only if it's reversed. I think in this context, it's like, hold on to your values here, okay? Hold on to your presence of mind and don't question yourself, and stick with your decision. And that's the reading.